Hey guys, Joe here, and here we are for the new Ike matchup guide / analysis. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about who he's good versus, who he's bad versus, some pros and cons, and if you need a secondary. And before we get started, I want to say that Ike, Toon Link, and Mega Man got a lot of support, so we'll be doing them as the next 3 characters. But after that, look in the description below because I will have a link to a straw poll, which will be for more characters that you can vote on, and the character that's voted the most will be in the next video. But with all that said, let's get this started. Let's get started with the pros, and I actually put a lot of pros for Ike because I feel like he does have a lot of very good pros. And with Ike as a character, I feel like he's a good character where he's very strong, can do well versus most of the matchups in the game, is just a very solid character. And like in general, I don't really feel like he auto wins much matchups, but at the same time, even his bad matchups, he doesn't really auto lose. He can do pretty well in all of his matchups. With that said, let's get to the pros. The first one is that you do have great range, along with that, without a ton of lag. Now, your only laggy move really in the air is your down air and maybe somewhat your up air, and of course on the ground your smash attacks. Other than that, you really don't have way too much lag, and you do have huge range with your sword, which does kill very early. Now, the second thing is you do also have a lot of good coverage with this with these attacks. Your nair will hit below you and even in front of you and a little bit above you, and then your forward air will hit above you, in front of you, and below you also. You have a lot of good coverage with these attacks. Back air comes out, hits way behind you, and there's just a lot of area that your attacks will hit once you do try to throw them out, so that does become very good, along with a lot of your ground moves, like forward tilt does it pretty well also. The third thing is you also have great launching power. Now, this is mainly for your back air and for your forward tilt. These will launch them really far, and even without those, just with like up air and forward air, they still throw you very far, and of course smash attacks kill very early with that great launching power. The fourth thing is that he is very heavy, but he is not cumbersome. Now, this means that you are heavy, you will not die for a long time, but at the same time, you don't really feel like a Bowser type of character where it's hard to get around the field. You can move pretty fast, but you still are pretty heavy, which is a really nice combo. The fifth thing is you do have decent air mobility along with the previous thing. You can move pretty decently in the air, and you can get some nice combos going on. Next thing is that you can actually edge guard, which is very nice, mainly with your forward air, your down air, and your back air. A lot of these things can edge guard, and if you do steal the cliff and then go for a back air, you'll be able to get a kill pretty early. Now, the seventh thing is you do have a lot of very good kill moves, mainly, again, your back air and your forward tilt, and then along with your smash attacks. But as far as the quick kill moves, mainly your back air and your forward tilt, and also your forward air can kill pretty early, and your up air can kill at like 120%, depending on the character. It kills at least at a decent percent. Next thing is that you do have some combos. Now, this is nice because you are a heavy character and you have at least a decent amount of combos, and most of these combos will go off of your comboing up throw and your comboing down throw. Most of the time you want to go up throw into forward air, or up throw into mainly forward air. Later on in the game though, you'll want to go down throw into forward air, or down throw into neutral air, down throw into back air. You can do all those different things and kind of get a little bit of combos. And then of course you can go down tilt into reverse your rush back air, and there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. You just have to look up a little bit of guides to learn kind of how to do it. The next thing is that you do actually have a pretty darn good counter. It does kill very early, even though it does have a little bit of lag, and it can be kind of hard to get used to. 11th thing is that your side B can also cancel with ending lags. Essentially, when you use side B at the exact right time, you'll have no ending lag after it, so you can go side B into a forward tilt, or side B to dash attack, or side B to jab, which is very nice. The final thing is great. You have really great footsies, mainly your down tilt and your forward tilt. You can just run around, hit them, jab, dash attack. You have a lot of really good footsies moves that allows you to have a lot of range but a lot of damage, and all your footsies come out very quickly, and by footsies I mean mainly your ground based tilts and stuff like that. So you do beat a lot of the other characters with your footsies, especially because you do have that disjointed hitbox with your sword. But with all these pros, there are a few cons, really not way too many. I think he's a pretty balanced character. The cons are that he does have a very linear and very gimpable recovery. Most opponents can just hit you and you're dead. Your recovery is completely straight sideways, or it's completely straight up, so it's really easy to hit you, and you kind of have to do a certain recovery. You can't really mix it up that much. You don't really have much of a mix-up for your recovery, so it's very easy to gimp you. The next thing is that you do have a lot of startup delay with a lot of your smashes, so you'll have to use a smash, wait a second, and then it'll hit, and it does also have a lot of end lag, which can be a big problem if you want to use your smashes quite often, other than your down smash. That one comes out pretty fast. Next thing is that you do get juggled. Now, this is a really big problem because you are pretty heavy, but you have a decent aerial mobility, but it's kind of just at the right place where the opponent can hit you a lot of times. There's not much you can do about it, so that is kind of bad about him. And with that, he does have that big hitbox, so he can be hit very easily, get juggled very easily, and get edge guarded very easily with that big hitbox. And the sixth thing is that he does have no get off me move. He can try to go for his neutral air, but really that's not fast enough for a get off me move. Most people will be able to combo you anyway if you do go for a neutral air. Sometimes back air can get them off of you, but there's not much you can do once they do start to combo you. And the seventh thing is that you get edge guarded. Of course, as I said earlier, you get edge guarded very easily, and you do have that very linear recovery. So with all this in mind, let's talk about his advantages, disadvantages, and who's equal versus. And of course, in my opinion, Ike really does okay in his disadvantages, and he doesn't do way too well in his advantages. It's kind of like very close to even matchups, even in these. I feel like he does very well, but his matchups are very even for the most part, at least in my opinion, from playing him quite a bit. Okay, but let's get to this. So who does he win versus? First off, he wins versus people with other bad recoveries. Now, of course, Ike's recovery is not that great, but he can edge guard, so he can beat other characters if they have a bad recovery. So it kind of is like a double-edged sword, which it's not way too bad for him. The second thing is that he also does very well versus lightweights because he kills extremely early. Back air kills at like 70%, and if you have rage even earlier, it's kind of ridiculous, especially close to the side of the stage. And if you just throw out one of those and hit them, it'll kill very early. And even with all your smash attacks, you'll also kill extremely early. The third thing is that you do very well versus short, non-disjointed hitboxes. So if the opponent actually has to hit you with their body, then you can just throw out a forward air, and then it'll hit them. It'll break through their attack. And especially since you have a lot of priority, and you'll be able to hit them very easily, so there's that. Next thing is that you do well versus people with no projectile because they can't camp you, and you don't do way too well versus being camped. The fifth thing is that you do well versus slow characters because you can just throw out walls and footsies and all these other things, and you do very well. The sixth thing is that you do actually pretty well against other footsie characters because, of course, you do have this disjointed hitbox, which beats a lot of the other footsie characters, and also all of your attacks do a huge amount of damage, so if they hit you once, you're hitting them back once will probably do a bit more damage than what they did to you. Another thing is that he just, in general, does well versus all sizes of hitbox and all sizes of characters just because his attacks are so well and so big. Really, the only thing that he has a bit of trouble hitting is his back air against small opponents, but if you do time it right, you can really hit any opponent size without way too much effort. And finally, the eighth thing is that he does do well versus people with lots of ending lag because you can hit them with a bear or you can hit them with a smash attack to kill them very, very early. With all that said, let's talk about his disadvantages and who he just kind of loses versus a little bit. The first thing is campers. You don't really have any great approaching moves. You can try to go for forward airs, but they really can just shield that and then hit you with more of the camping moves. You don't have way too much you can do to beat campers. The only thing that I really feel like you can do to beat campers is to either go shielding their camping moves into a quick short hop, reverse arrow, rush back air, or just trying to go jump side B, time it where you have no ending lag on the end of your side B, and then go into a jab attack or go into a forward tilt. Those are your two ways that you can really get into campers, but they really are a little bit risky and not the best. Next thing is that you don't do way too well versus people that are combo based enemies, because the fact that they can combo you for a ton of percent and you don't have that get off move that I was talking about earlier, so they can just hit you over and over and over again, and it does become a big problem for such a big hitbox that you are. Now the third thing is also you don't do very well versus people that quickly get up into your grill. Now while your attacks do have not way too much ending lag for how great they are, if the opponent can get up into your grill, it still can be a big problem, especially because you don't have any attacks that really come out way too fast, mainly in the air. On the ground you do have some pretty fast moves that come out pretty fast, but if you are in the air and if the opponent does get up to your grill really quickly, you'll kind of be in trouble a lot. Now the fourth thing is that you do also not do way too well versus people like Greninja because of Greninja's up B and with the move that pushes Ike like that. Essentially the water physics or just any wind physics, anything that pushes Ike's up B to the side makes so Ike's recovery immediately kills Ike. And even with the side B, sometimes you can push him down or sometimes you can push him just a little bit too far to the right, and it really does make your recovery almost impossible to get back on the stage with. And so it does become a really big problem in a lot of those matchups. It's not really an instant lose, but it is a very big bad part about playing Ike against these characters. Now the fifth thing is that you also don't do way too well versus people with longer range than you. Now you don't really have short range, you have quite long range, but some people have just a little bit longer range that can just hit you, and so since you don't really have much approaching moves other than your side B, which have the ending leg cancelled. Other than that, there's not much you can really do to get in, so you do get kind of outspaced by a few characters, not really way too many. And the final sixth thing is that you just don't do way too well in general against great edge guarders, because even if they don't have a move that'll kind of kill you instantly like the Greninja up B water physics, still your recovery is really easy to see coming, and a lot of times they can just hit you once, hit you a little bit too far away, and then you're dead. You get edge guarded very easily, and if you're fighting a very good edge guarding opponent, then you'll be in really big trouble. So as you can see, I actually did put a ton of people in even matchups, and that's because what I said earlier, I feel like Ike really does have just a kind of playstyle and moves where they have just enough lag where the opponent can kind of punish you if you use them wrong, but also enough lag and enough just starting up frames where if you use them correctly, you can beat most of the opponents. You really have this kind of even matchup versus a lot of the characters in the game, which does make you a very strong character in my opinion, and makes so you can actually bring Ike to a lot of these tournaments and use him as a good fighter. You really don't need to have much other people than you are playing as Ike. He does very decent by himself, and even in his terrible matchups, he can still actually win them without way too much trouble. Finally, do you need a secondary as Ike? I'd say with Ike, you probably don't need a secondary. Once again, just because he's a character that has a ton of even matchups, and of course his bad matchups aren't completely instant lose. Now, against some of the highest of high tiers, they can become very difficult, and you have to play very well. You have to space extremely correct, and if you don't do that, then you'll be in big trouble. But you still can win them if you do put in a lot of effort. It'll just be pretty hard for you against those really top, fast, quick characters that can combo you very easily. But I'd say you really don't need a secondary as Ike, and if you did get one, either get somebody that can really rush down very quickly, or get somebody that can camp, because those are the two main things that Ike doesn't do way too well versus, and when you have a character with one of those, you can do decent yourself. But yeah, I'd say that's all with Ike. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, make sure to press that like button, and let's try to get this to a few likes. Just make sure to press the like button, comment down below what you'd like to know about this, or if you'd like to know any more stuff about the Ike matchup, I'll try to get to you. Press that subscribe button, and also look in the description, as I said at the beginning of the video, and vote for who you would like next time, and I'll make sure to do them. Thank you guys for watching, though, and I'll see you all next time.